Hello and welcome to the Flix Forum podcast, where each episode we go back and we look at a Netflix original film in the order of release. Today we have Netflix 411th film from 2021. It's the teen romantic comedy called The Kissing Booth 3. Wow, the third one. This one's directed by Vince Marcello and stars Joey King, Joel Courtney, Jacob Elordi, Taylor Zakhar Perez, Maisie Richardson-Sellers, Meganne Young, and Molly Ringwald. I am Jesse and I am your host. Thank you for joining me today for this Netflix original film. As always, if this is a film you haven't seen before, give us a pause and come back a little bit later on because we are going to spoil this as we go. But it's Christmas. Merry Christmas. It's Christmas Day. So this is our festive season done and dusted for another year. I mean, I know this one was a little bit more tame than previous years, but putting out a couple of episodes every week in the lead up to Christmas, hopefully there's a few extra episodes that you've enjoyed listening to, and hopefully you're having a great festive couple of days with family and friends. But before you jump into that lunch or dinner, have a listen to this one about The Kissing Booth 3. This is obviously the third film in a series. This is our third episode from this series because we have done an episode on the first and second film. But we start our show with the Fast Flicks, where we do a quick little summary of what the film is all about. So, The Kissing Booth 3, it's a question. Will a girl keep a lifelong promise to go to college with her best friend, or ditch him and go to college with her boyfriend, who happens to also be his brother? Intrigue. I hope you're really excited for this one. Let's talk about how this one ended up on Netflix. Some information about the film. The tagline for this film is "The end of an era, the beginning of everything else." Well, that definitely ties in with what I've just said. This is the third and final film in this series. So there we go. The log line on Netflix, as you log into Netflix, it says, "Harvard or Berkeley, ? Elle struggles with indecision, seeking guidance from her best friend, her boyfriends, and a former flame, ... with lingering feelings." Woo! And while you're watching on Netflix, it says, "Determined to make the most of her final summer before college, Elle plans the ultimate bucket list as she navigates what comes next with Noah and Lee." There we go. You've pretty much got the story down pat from everything we've gone through around the world. The title in Croatian and Norwegian, it's called Kiss Me a Third Time. There we go. How sweet. In Greek, it's called Kiss Me 3. Japanese, it's called A Kiss Begins 3. In Russian, it's called A Kaleidoscope of Kisses 3. Very good. And in Chinese, it's called Love and Kissing Pavilion 3, as well as Kiss Station 3. And in Turkish, it's called Crazy 3, because yes, maybe you are crazy to be watching a third film in this series. Like I said before, this is the third and final installment in the Kissing Booth trilogy, which is based on the novel of the same name by Beth Reekles. In July of 2020, it was announced that the third film had been shot back-to-back with the second film, which we covered, and I think we said this when we watched the second film, in South Africa in 2019, with the main cast all reprising their roles, and the director Marcello directing alongside the screenplay he wrote with Jay Arnold. So the two films filmed from April the 1st, 2019 through to August the 17th, 2019, and Joey King had shaved her head for a role in the film, the 2019 film called The Act. So this film, she wears a wig in the movie. There you go. Interesting little fact. The other interesting fact about this one is afterwards, Jacob Elordi famously slammed the franchise in his GQ interview when he was interviewed for their Men of the Year feature. He said, "I didn't want to make those movies before I made those movies. Those movies are ridiculous. They're not universal. They're an escape." Whack. There we go. I just had to include that one. Here we go. So this one, it was released on Netflix worldwide on the 11th of August, 2021. And I've got to put a little side note here. If we think back to our last episode we did, that came out on the 30th of July. So that's like a 12-day gap. Maybe the biggest gap that there has been between Netflix releasing original films. In South Africa, this was filmed in Cape Town. There were some scenes in Quebec, LA, and Mexico as well. So what are the critics and audiences saying about this film? On Rotten Tomatoes, this sits at 25%. That's on 20 reviews. That is rotten, not very fresh. The audience, even lower, 19%. That's on more than 250 ratings. So, not very happy there. IMDb, not as low as I thought. It's a 4.8 out of 10 on 26,000 ratings. So that's okay, I guess. But Letterboxd, the other hand, a 1.3 out of 5 on nearly 189,000 ratings. Whoa, and it's been logged by 295,000 people. They are huge numbers. Metacritic, who used that traffic light system of red, yellow, and green, this sits in red from the critics, a 36 out of 100 on 8 reviews, and the audience, it's also red, sits at a 2.6 out of 10 on 19 reviews. So I think we have to say this film has been received really poorly, but I know you're all hanging out. What are my early thoughts? Did I like this film? I didn't enjoy the first 2 films, and I enjoyed this one even less. There is no point for this film to exist. Here we go, whack time. I am going to go through and whack this film. The characters in this film, I'm not going to go through who the characters are, because if you've watched the other films and watched this, you can sort of pick up the gist. But in this film, Elle, the main protagonist, she wants to have the best last summer ever with her friends, but she has too many commitments. She's got to work. She's got to ensure she does what her best friend Lee wants. She's got a stupid list with him that she's got to do. She's got to look after her brother sometimes because her dad's moved on with a new flame. And on a side note, Elle is horrible to this new girlfriend because she feels like she's there to replace her mother and she doesn't want this. And to make things even worse, she can't help herself but still communicate with the guy she kissed in the last film, who obviously annoys her boyfriend, so she can't please anyone. And apparently, after watching these films, she likes video games. So video games are very cool. There we go. Lee's Elle's best friend. So his girlfriend Rachel, he's dating her. I think people like her. She's a sweet character, but I can't see why she's actually dating him, because if I was dating someone who was so obsessed with completing a list with a girl and then forcing this girl to go to college just so she was near me, I would run. If I was this Rachel chick, I would run. But Lee, I guess he has some time to make a new best friend, this guy called Ashton, but this Ashton guy is literally there to create more space between him and Elle, so it's not even a real friendship. So that's a bit frustrating too. Then Lee's brother, Noah, who is also Elle's girlfriend. This is the brute who doesn't say much. He runs off, or he gets on his bike when things get too tough, and he thinks that being a good girlfriend to Elle is to protect her, and he gets jealous super easy, and I think he's a really bad character, a really poor character. The same as this Marco guy. This Marco guy, from memory in the second film, he clicked with Elle because they did that Dance Revolution type competition. They kissed on stage. Noah saw it. He didn't like it. He returns randomly. He's got a job at the same summer location, and he's still not over Elle. And he's going to do whatever he can to make things awkward for her and for Noah. So just to add an extra layer to the film. And finally, Chloe. Chloe is Noah's friend that he met in the last film from college, and Elle was jealous of her in that last film, but they'd fixed all these things up, but she decides she's going to come for summer, and Noah's like, cool, well, you can stay at our place for summer as well, and this Chloe chick's actually super nice to Elle and defends her to Noah, but her side struggle is that her parents are getting divorced, and she's struggling with that, but probably a little bit more on that later. Vince Marcello, the director, 12 directing credits, all 3 of these films, that's about it. Let's move on. What are the scenes that worked? What scenes didn't work? So the stuff that worked. Noah and Elle, they reveal to each other that she's talking to Marco and Noah's talking to Chloe, and we know that there's tension there. And then Elle's response was, I was fine with Chloe. And then Noah's response was, well, I didn't kiss Chloe. I thought that was funny. And the other thing, Molly Ringwald. Molly Ringwald is Lee and Noah's mum, and she's been in the films. She has this one scene where she sits with Elle, telling her to figure out what she's passionate about and to follow that. That was a nice scene. Why wasn't she in this film more? That frustrated me. Other than that, what are the things that didn't work? Okay, here we go. This is a big list. The opening montage of the film sets you off in a really bad mood because they show this huge montage of all the things the kids are doing over summer and how privileged they are and how expensive all the things are and what they can do with their money over summer. And it just was lame. The next thing, any of the walkthroughs of the holiday house with memories and sad music. Did not like that. And then in this holiday house, there's this rumpus room that, because they're going to sell this house, there's this mess they've got to clean up. Please, it looked like a room that had been purposely set up. They open the cupboards and toys go everywhere, and there's this montage of them cleaning up. It just felt so set up and unrealistic. And to find in that room another bloody bucket list with more voiceovers throughout this whole film, voiceovers galore from Elle, which don't help with the film, and just the convenience to tell this narrative. Elle announces that she's going to Harvard with Noah, and this is obviously going to impact Lee, so he gets sad and he walks off, which was quite funny. And then Elle chases him, and he quotes all those stupid rules back to her and how she's breaking them. Like, this is not how people talk. Lee then gets this new friend, and we get a voiceover of Elle saying, "It felt weird that Lee's got a friend and it's not me. I just wanted to tell her to F off." Seriously. The bucket list, or this bucket list before college montage of cliff jumping, Slurpee eating, sumo wrestling, playing skydiving, pie eating, wedgies, sandcastle contests. The list goes on. They were so lame and not needed. And one of them was this Mario Kart race. I absolutely hated that. It's like they recreate a Mario Kart race and they throw like bombs and bananas and stuff. And surely, like, I'm watching this thinking this is too dangerous if they're trying to make this realistic. And my first question was, surely Nintendo didn't sign off on this. And I stayed through the whole credits and there was no mention of Nintendo. There was a mention for thanks to Major League Baseball, to Harley Davidson, to the Hollywood sign. They were all thanked. So my suggestion is to anyone to write to Nintendo and tell them to get this off Netflix. Just tell them how poorly their IP is being used. Noah sets up this big romantic dinner for Elle to sort of make things right, and she just bails on him to go and do a flash mob at a restaurant with Lee, which is ridiculous. I think it was like "Shut Up and Dance With Me," that song. And everyone at the restaurant is apparently on board, and there was no mention of any planning or anything from her or Lee to organise this. Did not like that. Lee is just like a little whiny sod about Noah painting over their childhood heights that are on the door frame in the house, and just cracks the sads. Oh, that frustrated me. Noah and Elle, they make up at her work at nighttime, dancing together to Cyndi Lauper's Time After Time. And then you just cut to Marco, who's looking out the window watching, being disappointed. I was like, oh, come on. And then there's this volleyball game, which happens in American films, so Noah and Marco can face off and be macho, and Marco punches Noah, and he walks off, and he says to Elle, "I asked you not to let him back into our lives." So funny. Elle finds Noah at the Hollywood sign, because this is of all places she could think of, this is where he would be. And it was just such poor green screen. And then they just pretty much break up anyway, and it was just really bad. Chloe, she calls Elle a brilliant woman. It's nice. It's a nice line. Shows Chloe's nice, but how? Why? What for? It just didn't make sense in relation to anything. And finally, the mini versions of Lee and Elle. He's getting in the car to drive off to college, and it was just like this, almost like a caterpillar line of them throughout the years when they were younger. It was lame. All right, themes, ideas. What's this film talking about? Obviously, through Elle, you see a lot about making yourself happy rather than trying to make everyone around you happy. That makes sense. Split families, that plays a good part in here, about how hard it can be and the impact that it can have on kids when parents move on with someone else. That makes sense. The idea of mistakes, everyone makes them. It's what you do after you make that mistake that shows who you truly are. I like that message. Obviously, the idea of going to college relates to growing up, making important decisions that are going to impact your life. That makes sense. The idea of change, moving on, whether that's selling a beach house with memories or moving cities for a new school. Truth, telling the truth, not lying. It's hard to let people down. I get that, but it can be easier in the long run if you're upfront straight away. And friendships. This is probably one of the good things throughout this series. It's okay for a boy and a girl to be friends without any romantic connection. It's just, how do you actually portray those characters? All right, what did I take away from this film? Jacob Elordi. The fact that this guy was cast in and stars in Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein, it's amazing. After doing these films, because he is nothing but a cardboard cutout here. And I looked at this and went, wow, how did you actually progress your career? So well done to Jacob Elordi. Some questions, some ponderings, some thoughts, some ideas. I like this from IndieWire, the website called IndieWire. They said, Elle's entire identity is rooted in her relationships with Noah and Lee. Without them, she simply does not exist. So true. That is so true. Like, every decision she makes throughout these three films is about the two of those. Apart from the last 15 minutes of this film where she chooses to follow a career in video game creation. But in saying that, it probably would have been more interesting watching the 6 years of her being by herself doing that than a quick cut to 6 years later. Elle and Noah, do they end up together? It's a great question. I think that, the hope that the final shot of the series where Elle and Noah are riding motorbikes along the coast together maybe hints towards that. But I guess it's okay that they didn't actually explicitly state that too. I mentioned some of the CGI before at the Hollywood sign, but the CGI throughout this film was laughable. Like they catch a ball in San Francisco Bay outside Oracle Park. That was so laughable. Some skydiving. It was just so bad throughout. And this was really bad too. Chloe, I mentioned before, Chloe's the character that's Noah's friend from college. She's on a yacht, she rocks up, she calls Noah over, she complains about her parents fighting, she wants to get off the boat, go spend some time with them, to get away from them. And then the next scene is that they go to Elle's house where she's babysitting her brother. Elle and Chloe sit and play some video games, and Elle's talking about her dad's new girlfriend and how she doesn't like it. And then Chloe says, "Don't worry, all my friends hate my dad's girlfriends." I was like, what in the what sort of open relationship is he in that he's introducing his girlfriends to his daughter's friends while still with his wife and not divorced yet? That was wild, especially just the follow-on scene straight away. And then the 6 years later at the end of the film, it was laughable. Like the pixie cut of Elle, obviously it was there. As I said before, she had to shave her head for another film, but she hasn't seen Noah in 6 years. So one of the big through lines of this film was the Noah and Lee's mum keeping the holiday house so that they could all stay together and be friends and keep the memories going. But if they haven't seen each other in 6 years, like she's lost millions of dollars she could have sold up. And she's only, I think the words they use, she's stayed connected to Lee. Please, this is your best friend that you're worried about this. Surely you catch up every now and then. I don't know, just so much wrong. Anyway, I'm ready to wrap this film up. Sorry if you really like this film. We give the film a rating out of 5 on this show. So for me, the easiest summary for this is the same poo, just a different movie. I was going to say, there are 3 films of a guy being so immature over his friendship with a girl that he stands in the way of her happiness, and a guy, his brother, is so jealous that he can't just be happy at all, while the main protagonist has no agency and all she does is gets it in the last 15 minutes of a 6-hour film trilogy. Please, audiences deserve better. I'm giving this a 1 out of 5. Not happy with this ending. We're on socials. We've got Instagram, we've got Facebook, and we have X, formerly known as Twitter. Give us a follow, give us a like if you can. The question I wanted to ask in relation to this film is the idea of making lists. Do you like making lists? Because we obviously see Elle and her BFF L for life, #Lee, or whatever you want to call him, always make these lists. I'm getting better at it. I need to get better at it. I'm getting better at it. So do you like making lists? I'm starting to enjoy it so I can tick things off. So let us know in the comments. Other than that, we're off for a couple of days before we're back to our regular schedule where we will be discussing another film from 2021, which is the action thriller called Beckett. This one's directed by Fernando Cito Filomarino and stars John David Washington, Boyd Holbrook, Vicky Creeps, Alicia Vikander, and Michael Sturbach. So give that one a watch if you can, and come and listen next time. Other than that, I hope you enjoy the few days in and around Christmas. Thanks for hanging out these last few weeks, and I will see you next episode.